Let's paint Garrosh. Big thanks to Hell Creator for this model. He was so epic looking we had to make him big. So we printed this the biggest our printers would allow, which was at 290%. Once the print is prepped and primed, we begin with the boots. For this base coat on the main part of the boot, Parker started with a mix of crimson, phthalo blue-green and burnt sienna, before going in with a slightly brighter top coat using a mix of red oxide, Naphthol red and yellow oxide. Keep these mixes in mind as he uses them for some of the armoured pieces on the rest of Garrosh, and you'll spy them already done when we get there in the video. For the fur trim around the top of the boot, Parker used permanent green, red oxide and Titan buff. For the rear of the boot, Parker opts for a dark grey black colour. Now, as we always like to point out, you don't have to mix colours to paint like this. We always aim to show techniques and Parker's painting style with the knowledge that you can replicate this sort of work with your own paint collection. Just bear in mind, model paints don't always mix so well, so aim to colour match to his final mixed colour. On this occasion, Parker used burnt umber and Paynes Grey mix to achieve this dark fabric look. He applied more layers into the crevices of the boots to create darker shadows and then used the sponge with a lighter colour mix to highlight the highest point of the fabric crease. Now this sponge he's using is actually called a beauty blender. Fellow makeup wearers will know what I'm talking about. Rest of you go ask your partner about them. Just don't steal from their makeup bag. If you're new to Parker's painting, you may not be prepared for how much sponge he's going to use in this video. Next up, he runs black and burnt umber Liquitex ink through the 0.2 Mobius airbrush with no air cap to give the most precise spray. Just be careful of your needle if you opt to do this. He sprays in to help blend some of the layers together. Now for the top coat of this fur, we bring the sponge back out and he dabs a lighter colour mix using Titan buff. Next up, the straps need painting in, for which he uses phthalo green blue and red oxide to create a medium brown colour. Finally, he turns to a smaller brush to give the leather a more weathered look by painting in some of these small scratches on the leather. And here are the finished boots. Now on to Garrosh's skin. So we did a Patreon video on human skin tones and how to choose your underpainting colours, but it gets a bit different when painting these sorts of characters with unrealistic skin tones. Parker opted for a cooler base using shades of green, blue and purple across the surface. These mixes were achieved using Dioxazine Violet Deep, Red Violet and Phthalo Green Blue. Unnatural skin colours like this offer a good opportunity for some experimentation. To finish off this underpainting, Parker used Dioxazine Purple through the airbrush to blend out some of the areas and also spots that require deeper shadows. The top coat of Garrosh's skin used Mars Yellow Deep, Naphthol Red Light and Burnt Umber using, you guessed it, more sponge. This sponge application creates really interesting variation across the surface. He then runs burnt umber through the airbrush to blend the darker shadows into the lighter sponge application. Next, he uses the sponge to lightly dab the vein textures to bring them back out. This sort of thing can be achieved with dry brushing, but we're on a roll now with the sponge, so why switch it up? The exact tattoo pattern for Garrosh differed across the source materials slightly, but generally we found some consistencies, so Parker followed the best he could. The tattoos on this model aren't sculpted, so it's a great chance to practice some of your freehand skills. Make sure you have a good brush that will hold a point and you're prepared to have your steadiest hands ready. Like maybe wait a bit if you've just had your morning Red Bull. He tends to sketch out the general shapes he's going for before going back in to fill out the details properly. For these tattoos, he used raw umber, black and sepia ink. I have no idea how he gets them mirrored so well. I'm one of those people who ends up with extreme eyeliner looks because I'm forever overshooting on one eye and trying to match it. But hey, if you want to chat more to him about this and other things, check the full 6-hour paint course on Patreon or come chat with Parker on Discord. And here are the finished tattoos. Next up, he paints some of the gum detailing using Mars Yellow and Titan Buff before going in for those big tooths. Oopsie, all the teeth painting seems to be out of focus, so let's jump to the end. Okay, that's better. He used the same colours mixed, just slightly altered for his fingernails. So like I said, this guy's printed at 290%, and look how teeny tiny his eyes still are. If you've printed this at 100%, I wish you luck with these eyes. For this, he used his Raphael 000 brush and just took it slowly, dotting in almost pixel by pixel. The colours used included light orange, Mars yellow, and Bismuth vanadate yellow. And here they are. I may be biased, but I'm very impressed how well they turned out despite being so small. Maybe I should be shocked when he comes from a miniature painting background. Let's head into this shoulder armour. Boy, are these things big. So, he base coated this horn piece using Naphthol red and permanent green with Titan buff, getting an overall coverage. For the skull part, Parker uses the same mix, just without the Titan buff this time. Now we get back out Parker's favourite tool this video, say it with me, sponge. He dabs it in the mix made previously just with some additional Titan buff added to get this lighter colour. He then uses Titan buff mixed with some antelope brown ink to start blending out some of the sponge in. A final darker ink stage is used with raw umber through the airbrush. For this sponging over the skull, Parker uses a heavy Titan buff mix with a little bit of permanent green and yellow shades already on his wet palette. At this stage of painting, Parker usually has a lot of options on his palette and just intuitively begins to incorporate them into other aspects of the painting. To shade the skull, Parker uses his go-to for bone, Green Stuff World Zombie Dip Dipping Ink. For painting in the leather straps, Parker uses the mix like earlier, which was still on his palette, but slightly adjusted to give some variation. Parker gets out a slightly smaller makeup sponge this time to get these chains painted. Using Paynes Grey, black and light orange mix, he lightly dabs to lighten up some areas. This is a bit of a non-metallic metal shortcut, but if you'd like a bit of a better short tutorial on NMM, you can find one on our Patreon using this chain that he did on Emma Frost to demonstrate. He's been using the sponge in place of dry brushing quite a lot in this video, but here with the changes he does finish up with a dry brush this time. Finally, he paints in some fine, near to white lines to create worn edges and scratches on the metal. We're hopping into a quick and short section now, as the trousers will use the previously discussed armour colours back in the boot section, as well as chains, which we of course just covered. And we're going to see chains a little bit more in the next section too. So we're going to just discuss the colour of the trouser fabric. He paints all over using phthalo green blue and a raw umber mix to get this dark green colour. Then he layers over with raw umber through the airbrush to blend in the underpainting and give this brown look while still maintaining some of that green underpainting. For this hand wrap, Parker creates another brownish mix. Here he uses raw umber and yellow oxide to get to this light greeny brown and applies all over the wrap. A bit further up this arm, he went for a darker brown to contrast. Again, this was a shade that was already mostly on his palette, so rather than let it go to waste, he mixed in a bit more raw umber to get it a bit darker to where it is now. Once again, he went for a sponge application to pick out some highlights and weathering. Again, using the base colours already created, with a bit of lightening up like using Titan buff being mixed in. Next up, he does an ink shade again for the leather using raw umber for a 0.2 airbrush. Next, the axe handle, which is just some more brown. Again, he did just utilise what was on his palette, mostly using raw umber and red oxide to achieve this colour you see here. Here we see him working on another chain, so I'm not going to go over everything again, let's just take a moment to watch him paint without me yapping for a change. Ah, well, wasn't that lovely? So moving on to this axe head, we're getting onto the final steps now. This was base coated like the rest of the metal with Paynes Grey mixed with a bit of black in it. He then mixes Paynes Grey, light orange, white and black to create this shade ready for sponge work. He blocks in the highlights of the metal axe head using this method before switching to a small brush again to get the sharpest edge highlighted. Now we didn't catch much footage of the gold NMM on this axe head, but like I said earlier, we have a better and slightly more comprehensive version of this over on our Patreon. Parker mixes Bismuth vanadate yellow and Dioxazine purple to create this plummy browny colour. I'm sure Parker would offer a better description of it. He then brings out the sponge for the final time to get some texture and variation onto this rocky base. He really does get his money out of these sponge multi-packs. For this final step, he returns to his airbrush to use Green Stuff World's Green Stone Dipping Ink. This offers a final step to the colour, as well as blending in all of those textures. And here is our final model. If you would like a lot more in-depth guide for this model, we do have a 6-hour painting course available on our Patreon, along with access to Discord channels to come ask Parker all the questions you may have. If you would like to help me keep Parker stocked up on his sponges so I can keep mine for foundation, please consider joining us on Patreon for quick tips, bonus footage and occasional mini courses. Or join us at the student tier to grab a free STL along with the course of the month. Thanks for watching and thank you to all of our patrons on screen. We will catch you in the next video.